Vice President J.D. Vance is back from those talks with the Iranian regime in Switzerland, and he says there has been and continues to be progress on a foundation for a deal to end the war. Key issues including managing the Strait of Hormuz, where oil traffic is already rapidly increasing. And however this comes together, there seem to be some different views on unfreezing Iranian funds and letting nuclear inspectors back into Iran. The vice president offered a disclaimer.
Whether good faith or bad faith, you can't trust anybody's words. You have to trust what they actually do. Letting in the inspectors is a big deal, but again, we're going to see what they actually let the inspectors do once they're in the country. That's going to continually be a part of our negotiation. So my point is not that I trust or distrust anybody. My point is that I trust actions. And what the president has asked us to do is verify what they're doing, focus less on what they're saying.
And if they don't do what they say they'll do, then what? That's the big question, enforcement of this. American and Iranian teams remain on the ground in Switzerland to keep those talks moving forward. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is headed to the Persian Gulf to build support with our allies. He's going to the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain and Kuwait. White House correspondent Aishah Hasnie now. Aishah.
Hey, Harris, and a potential bump in the road this morning. The White House is pushing back on Iran's claims that it has not agreed to allow UN inspectors into the country to take a look at its nuclear facilities. It's a big part of this deal, a center of this deal, and they're saying that they have not agreed to that part of it. A U.S. official, though, pushing back on this today, writing, the Iranians have agreed to a robust IAEA inspections of the remains of their nuclear weapons program. Goes on to say the Iranian regime will say whatever they have to say for their domestic audience, but the fact remains that we've reached a major milestone towards permanently ending Iran's nuclear program. Meanwhile, the president telling PBS today why the American people should support the reported $80 billion in a supplemental the Pentagon has asked for the war in Iran. The president saying, quote, because Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. It's simple. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. That's not costing much at all. That's very cheap compared to what we're doing. The president also touting the Strait of Hormuz is open. Oil is moving, posting on Truth Social this morning that 19 million barrels of oil actually flowed out of the Strait of Hormuz yesterday, an all-time record, he says. As oil prices are tumbling down, the world is a much safer place. That is close to how much oil was moving before the war began, about 20 million barrels of oil a day. The president also says U.S. farmers will benefit greatly from the unfreezing of Iranian funds. Watch.
One of the things that we are doing also, and it came up last night, is money that's being unfrozen is going to be used to buy food, and the food's going to be bought exclusively through the United States from our farmers. And corn, soybeans, all of the things they need are going to be bought from our farmers. So our farmers are very happy. I've had a lot of calls. They were very happy about that.
Harris, also here in Washington, we're tracking these Israel-Lebanon talks. They have begun today. In the meantime, the president will jet off to battleground Pennsylvania very soon here to visit a Mack truck facility as he shifts his focus from the Iran war to now the U.S. economy. Harris?
Right where the voters want to be, for sure. Affordability, as the Democrats call it, just common sense, being good shepherds and stewards of our money on the right. Good to see you. Thank you. In focus, Brent Sadler, retired Navy captain, former Pentagon official, and senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Just real quickly on something that Aishah brought up, and that's that Israel-Lebanon talks. And I want to get your quick thought on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now that the Iranians have conflated the Israeli Hezbollah fighting in with the greater negotiations to end the conflict with Iran, you got to pay attention to this issue. And before that happened, there was deals and negotiations going on with the national government in Beirut, U.S. as well as Israel, to try to finally get Hezbollah to lay down arms and become just a normal political party, something that was a commitment made in 1989, the Taif Agreement. So something to watch. I think right now the Iranians clearly going to try and use it as leverage to renege on parts of the deal or to slow negotiations. But inevitably Hezbollah needs to be disarmed for the better of Lebanon and for the safety of northern Israel.
Well, and we even saw Hezbollah, I mean, at least doing some sort of northern Israel border distraction and killing when Hamas was pillaging its way along Gaza. I mean, it may not be that they're working in concentration or coordination in all of this, but Iran, it's puppets. And so if you don't take them out, you're constantly dealing with them.
Yes, and the head of the snake remains Iran, which now I think, clearly if Hezbollah is on the menu for negotiations, so should Hamas, so should the Houthis, and so should the proxies that operate in Iraq right now. All of them have American blood on their hand, and all of them remain a threat as long as they're connected to the IRGC's network of arms and illicit financing back in Tehran.
Well, I want to get your thought on this because our reporter, Aishah Hasnie, was just talking about the money and all of this, and it is a focal point. The Wall Street Journal editorial board has written this: the money is flowing to Tehran even before nuclear commitments. The U.S. Treasury issued broad sanctions relief for Iran's oil business for 60 days during this time of negotiation, I should clarify. The license lets the regime produce, ship, and sell its oil and receive all the revenue rather than have it kept abroad in escrow. This will gut accumulated U.S. sanctions leverage. The license also allows anyone, even sanctions conduits for Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, to be paid in U.S. dollars. Again, this is from the Wall Street Journal board. Your take?
Well, there's a lot more details that are still kind of obscured in the negotiations. One is the Secretary of Treasury is the one that's issuing the waivers on those oil sales, or should be. And that money that is being released, that is, frozen assets, perhaps even from other Gulf nations, should go into that reconstruction fund that the United States has oversight and authority to where and who gets the contracts. So the devil's in the details, and we're not getting all the details yet. And I don't buy the notion that the cash is flowing right into Iran through these sales.
Yeah, that is really critical. Yeah, that's writing it for those of us who can't quite see all the details yet. That would be everybody except for the vice president, the president, everybody negotiating in this deal. Brent Sadler, just one last question. So our men and women are positioned there, at least for the next 60 days. What does that look like off the coast right now?
Well, much the same when there was active combat going on and the blockade was enforced. So the president is maintaining the option to turn the switch to strike across Iran and to also enforce the blockade again. So the leverage is still there.
All right. Good to have you. Thank you very much. Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.